Hi, welcome to Saunders Sisterhood. I'm Carrie, and this is a YouTube channel for the single and childless, not by choice person. Our video today is healthy things that you can do to manage grief when you're childless, not by choice. Number one is try to get at least 8 hours of sleep. This can be difficult, particularly when your brain is racing, you are having a lot of thoughts that are difficult to contain and keep at bay. But making sure that your body is rested helps give you a little more distress tolerance and a little bit more energy to help manage the day. So here are some tips to think about in order to help you get the sleep that you need. One is stay away from caffeine after 3 p.m. This can be difficult too because sometimes we get that lull in the afternoon and we need a sip of caffeine in order to kind of help us keep going. Try to resist this. The other thing is, if you're somebody that likes to have that tea in the evening or that special drink in the evening, there are a lot of things that have caffeine in it that you might not be aware of. So make sure you're reading the list of ingredients on whichever tea that you're drinking or whatever beverage that you're drinking. So then you know you're not accidentally ingesting some caffeine that you're not aware of. If you really feel like you are in that habit of having something in the evening, consider decaf. Number two, go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time each day. Many of us, when we hit that weekend, we like to stay up a little bit later because it feels so great to be able to sleep in. But having this flip-flop in a pattern can disrupt our sleep. When we're not feeling well, especially, it's easy to just fall off the sleeping pattern. So whatever you do during the week, try to do during the weekend as well. Number three, limit screen time before bed. For a lot of us, if we have trouble falling asleep, it's just really easy to lay in bed and then scroll on our phone, particularly getting on those social media apps where you can go down the rabbit hole because the algorithm keeps feeding you things that it knows you'll find interesting. That can be activating. So instead of scrolling your phone or watching YouTube or whatever it is that you do for your screen time, instead, try listening to the sound of rain or the sound of the ocean or soothing things, right? Try to do something that is not screen-based. Maybe you want to read a book. Maybe you want to listen to a podcast. Before you go to bed, identify when you're going to stop engaging in screen time activities. The last thing that I want you to think about in order to help improve your sleep is avoid alcohol. When you're going through grief, you may be even going through a little depression, it's very difficult sometimes to stay in those healthy habits. And sometimes some people believe that having some alcohol before they go to bed actually helps them fall asleep. The issue is that it can often create scenarios in which you're waking up in the middle of the night and finding it hard to go back to sleep. It's also a really slippery slope in terms of using something like alcohol in order to help you cope or help you change certain habits. So avoid alcohol as much as you can, not only for sleep, but it's also a depressant. It won't help your mood, and it can be a really slippery slope in terms of falling into addiction. The second thing I want you to do in order to help manage grief related to being childless, not by choice, is body movement or exercise. This can be as strenuous as you want, or it can fall more in just moving your body. So if you like doing cardio, or if this was something you used to like that you haven't been doing, consider engaging in some cardio. Maybe you try something new. Maybe it's a spin class, maybe it's running, maybe it's boxing, maybe it's an aerobics class, maybe it's weightlifting if you prefer something along that range. Also, it doesn't have to be something where you're spending money to go to the gym. There's a lot of different options. There are YouTube videos, things like that you can do in order to help have somebody guide you through. Again, when you're feeling a lot of grief, it can be difficult to think through some of these things. And this is a cheap way that you can do that and help yourself feel better. The other thing is even just going on a walk can be helpful. So maybe you take 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes in the evening, or you do both, and you just get that your body moving. You get outside, you get out in the sun, you feel the breeze, and it allows you to just get moving. The third thing is you can journal. You know, a lot of times with grief, particularly when there's not like an activating event that a lot of people can rush towards you to support, send you cards, bring you food, things like that. You know, the thing with grief related to being childless is it's often kind of a slow descent into it. And not a lot of people even know that it's happening, or it's not something that people always think about as grief. And so they don't know to offer those types of supports. So you may not have somebody that you can feel comfortable talking to about this. But it's important that we express ourselves and we express those feelings. We take what's inside and we try and externalize it and get it outside. And one way to do that is journaling. Your journal doesn't have to be really sophisticated writing. It doesn't even have to make sense. You can put some anger in there. You can put some sadness in there. It can be whatever it is that's inside, and externalize it out. If you're worried about somebody reading your journal or finding your journal, sometimes what people do is they'll type it out and then they will just erase it, right? So they're not saving it, but they type it and erase it. I do think there is something to be said about actually handwriting it, but if that's going to mean that you're not going to engage in the process at all, then an alternative would be to type it and then erase it. The fourth thing that you can do to help manage grief related to being childless, not by choice, is finding connection and support. It can feel really difficult to find other people with shared experience within this population or in this group. It's something that that people don't always talk about. It's not something that's thought about as maybe people needing support around. So consider how helpful it could be to be around others who have the same experience. This is something that we do in lots and lots of other situations, right? Moms know to get together as a group. People with a shared diagnosis or illness know to get together as a group. People who support others or caretake others know to get together as a group. Feeling like you have something in common and that what you're experiencing, you aren't the only one, can be really healing. Community is powerful. So some online places that you can look are the Childless Collective, which is an online community for people who are childless, and they are childless across a wide variety of reasons, right? It's not just because they're single or because of infertility or because of illness. It's got lots of different populations of people that are childless for a variety of reasons. Or you can consider Sandra Sisterhood. We're a community for people who are single and childless, not by choice, because that's a unique experience within the Childless Not by Choice community. So check us out at our website or our Instagram page. Number 5 is eat balanced meals. So when you're feeling grief or some low mood, it can be easy to forget to eat, not eat, or if you're like me, it's easy to overeat and eat too much and go to the things that are the most convenient, which are typically DoorDash, Grubhub, things that are just gonna land on my doorstep, but not be the greatest for the waistline or the budget. So consider maybe this is a hobby that you pick up. Maybe you meal plan, or you decide that on these days you're going to make sure that you're eating at home or that you eat something home cooked. Make sure it's well balanced, right? That it has a variety of different things to it, so then you're feeding your body nutritiously. This gives you more energy, more motivation, and can also help your mood. It can also help you feel like you have more energy to go do some of these things that we're talking about. So sleep, body movement, food or nutrition, externalizing your feelings, expressing your feelings. These are all things that are really important in terms of managing your grief. Now, the other thing that you can do in order to help manage this grief is find a therapist. You know, we talked about finding community as well in order to be around people with a shared experience. But for some people, it can also be helpful to engage with a therapist, have somebody who you can express how you're feeling, who can help you process and explore your feelings, what's triggering those feelings, some different ways of responding to those feelings, maybe even using thoughts to help unlock or get unstuck with certain feelings, because this is something that can be really difficult, not only because it feels bad when you want something that you're not going to have or you can't have, and it feels like everybody else can get it. It's also a scenario in which there's not a lot of people who understand it, so it can feel very isolating and lonely. So consider seeing a therapist in order to have a place where you can externalize those feelings and explore those feelings and explore why you feel that way. It could be stigmatizing seeing a therapist, and as a therapist, I know a lot of people who see a therapist for the first time kind of wish they had done it sooner. It can also be really tricky to find a therapist, and so if you need any resources around that, there's a lot of directories out there. Your insurance should be able to help you find it. Also, your PCP probably knows some therapists in your community, and there might even be one that's in the clinic. So consider seeing a therapist as well. So these are all things to do in order to help manage the grief related to being childless, not by choice. There's not a simple solution or a kind of magic concoction of things that you can do to help make it all go away. But these are things that can help you get through this process, because the only way is through, and it's really healthy to feel what you feel and acknowledge that this is something that's really difficult, and so you're gonna need some supports around it. For more videos for the single and childless, not by choice person, subscribe to Saunders Sisterhood, and we'll see you in the next video.